of the Standing Committee on Access to Information, Privacy and Ethics. Today's meeting taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to all standing orders. Members are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. Just a reminder about the microphones. Just a couple of things that I have. Number one, Madam Clerk, we're going to get you to update where we're at on the work plan for the TikTok study. We've had some witnesses that have actually not agreed to appear, which is a problem. Secondly, we've had indication based on the SNC Lavalin motion that was passed that the RCMP Commissioner is making himself available along with the Staff Sergeant for December 11th. So we want to make sure that we're clear on based on the work plan that we have and has been approved by the committee, we should be finished this study by December 6th, given the fact that some of the witnesses are not deciding to appear, and that should open things up for December 11th. So, Madam Clerk, if you want to give us an update on where we're at with the committee, and I apologize to committee members. I know that we had previously canceled the meeting, but I needed this update just to bring you all in the loop and as well talk about December 11th as well. So, Madam Clerk, if you want to give us an update on where we're at with witnesses.
Certainly. Si on suit le plan qui a été distribué le...
If we follow the plan from November 7th, you'll see that for today's date, we had witnesses to invite, and now they have been invited. That being said, the majority of these witnesses requested a little bit more time to prepare. And then we have one witness who is in Taiwan, in Citizen Lab. And we have others who are interested, but were not necessarily available to appear with such a short prep time. For November 27th, Ms. Willow will be there. Someone from the RCMP will be there. We had a refusal from the Commissioner of Elections who said that it doesn't correspond with what they are doing, and the Commissioner of Ireland and Belgium were contacted, but I do not have confirmation. For the 29th, Google refused. And for Reddit, I was not able to get in contact with anyone. However, for the second hour, we have Leadership Lab confirmed, as well as Matt Malone, 2 people. And then following this, if witnesses request more time, so those who were supposed to come today, who requested more time, if you would like, I could invite them for December 4th. That is an option.
Well, that's an update from the Madam Clerk. Again, just provide an update in terms of the RCMP Commissioner, his correspondence, or the RCMP's correspondence to the committee as far as his availability on the 11th.
Yes, this is for the other study, for the RCMP study, the
SNC.
SNC Lavalin. The RCMP Commissioner, I was informed that he would not be available after December 11. So he is available to appear and confirmed, unless the committee wants to modify the plan, but he is confirmed to appear with the Staff Sergeant on December 11th. If the committee changes the plan and does not have the meeting on December 11th, then it would be until 2024 until he can make it with us.
Okay, so thank you, Madam Clerk. So that's just an update on the work plan. I just need, I've got Michael and then Madame Fortier after that. So just an update on the work plan. Any discussion on the work plan itself? Can we agree to that, December 11th, to have the RCMP Commissioner come in? That's really the big one right now, okay? I don't see any objection. Michael, do you have any comments?
Yep, thanks, Chair. So with respect to the Sustainable Development Technology Canada study, we've had pretty serious developments over the last number of weeks. And this, of course, is a question of a whistleblower who has brought forward very serious allegations about the misappropriation of taxpayer money and conflicts of interest at this Sustainable Development Technologies Canada. And we've heard some witness testimony, and following that witness testimony, we had the CEO of the organization resign. We had the chair of the organization resign. We've had an Auditor General investigation launched and an Ethics Commissioner investigation launched. And a member of the board, a further individual, has resigned. It's incredibly important that we're able to shed light on this very serious matter. And so I have a motion that I'd like to move, and I have it printed, but I believe the clerk should have just received it electronically, dropped it in the mailbox there for the interpretation folks, and the motion is that the committee invite the whistleblower, the individual who contacted the committee to identify wrongdoings at Sustainable Development Technologies Canada, to provide their testimony, and that the committee make every accommodation necessary to facilitate the witness testimony in public before Friday, December 1st, 2023. Chair, it's very this is a very straightforward motion about an issue that is incredibly serious. The report from Raymond Chabot Grant Thornton that was commissioned after the whistleblower brought these concerns forward to the Prime Minister's Department, the PCO, identifies numerous issues that, of course, though they didn't give rise to the minister or the government taking action and removing anyone from the board, though we heard the CFO for the industry minister say that they didn't have confidence in the board and that people needed to be fired. Nobody was fired. And they wanted the board to, they were satisfied with this, this fact-finding exercise, and said that they wanted the board to implement the recommendations. This is unbelievable, because it precipitated an investigation by the Auditor General. So it rose to the level that the Auditor General would investigate, but didn't seem to give concern enough to the minister that he would take action. A small sample of funding agreements, or a small sample of contracts, were examined, and $40 million in inappropriate funding or misappropriated funds were identified. A sample of less than 2 dozen of hundreds, literally hundreds of grants that had been given out. And with respect to conflicts of interest, we know, of course, that the Ethics Commissioner is now investigating, because we heard from the chair, the now former chair of the board, that she moved a motion at this board to give her own company more than $200,000 and then drew $120,000 from that company, but said that there was no conflict of interest. This is unacceptable. When we have a situation where we have a $1 billion slush fund that's being raided by insiders and the well-connected, when we have people lined up in record numbers at food banks. So the information that we have so far is not because of the robust practices of this organization or the stewardship of the minister and his department. It's because a whistleblower came forward. Whistleblowers came forward, and they furnished PCO, the Prime Minister's Department, with a 300-page slide deck detailing all of the problems, from human resources to funding being paid out that was inconsistent or not eligible based on the contribution agreement. And then we hear that the minister didn't even look. The minister didn't even look at the deck. It's incredible. And I want to lay out some of the from the RCGT report, some of the issues that they found. Reading from it directly, it says that from March 20th to September 1st, RCGT conducted a fact-finding exercise. And that's the first place I want to pause, because this is what the minister described as a forensic audit. But it's not a forensic audit. But in RCGT's own section 1.1, it calls it a fact-finding exercise. And there's a big difference between a fact-finding exercise and a forensic audit. And that's, of course, why the Auditor General is going to look into this, because it says there were sufficient facts to support a subsequent due process investigation of the allegations as permitted under ISED's authority granted by the contribution agreement between ISED and the corporation. Some of the key observations, Chair, in the report under conflicts of interest: the board's policy does not require board members and employees to declare conflicts with consultants, expert reviewers, and other companies providing services. This is basic stuff. Now, we heard from the board chair that the reason she was selected was because of her extensive experience leading organizations. Well, I've never been the CEO or COO of Home Depot like the now former chair had in her experience, but it would be surprising to me to find out that the head of a corporation like that wouldn't have to declare conflicts of interest. Like, this is basic stuff. The reassurance we got, of course, was that her lawyer said that she didn't break any rules. Well, at a very minimum, it's the appearance of a conflict of interest that people that are entrusted with taxpayers' money should be working to avoid. But when we have an actual conflict of interest, when we have a motion being actually moved by an individual who will then financially benefit from that, from the decision, and sits at the table while all of her fellow board members vote on it, that's unbelievable. And one of the findings of this report, it's incredible, because of the items that aren't redacted, we can see that when the board did take these decisions, they didn't have debates that resulted in any kind of dissent or split votes or examples where there was a question where some people agree, some people, wanted to abstain from this. Their decisions are unanimous every single time. Their decisions are unanimous every single time. And so when the board chair brought forward a motion that would give her company hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars, she knew that it would get unanimous approval, and sat at the table and looked her colleagues in the eye and then raised her hand and voted to give herself a couple $100,000 and then to her company, and then directly draw $120,000 from that company. If that's not a conflict of interest, if that's not corruption, then nothing is.
Mr. Barrett, I'm going to have to stop you there, and you're going to continue to have the floor. But the clerk and I have some questions with respect to the motion that was presented that we need some clarification on. First of all, it was the decision of the committee. Just hang on a sec, okay? I just have to clarify something with it. Okay, And I apologize, but based on some of the issues that have been brought to my attention with the clerk, I'm going to have to suspend for a couple of minutes. When we come back, you'll continue to have the floor, but there are some questions that need to be asked specifically about the motion itself. So I'm going to suspend for a couple of minutes, Mr. Barrett. Okay? Suspend. Continue to have the floor, but with respect to the motion itself, at some point, well, first of all, I want to remind the committee that that there had been some discussions in camera.
Decisions too, right, Chair?
Yes, the decision. There have been decisions in camera as well that we have to be mindful that we don't bring up in public. Secondly, the reference to make every accommodation necessary, Mr. Barrett, I think needs a little more specifics to that so that we can direct, and if it's the will of the committee to approve the motion and to make every accommodation necessary, we have to define what those conditions are. So I want you to consider that as you deliberate on the motion itself, but we're going to need something very specific on that to guide the clerk on how to deal specifically with the whistleblower appearing or not appearing before the committee. Okay? So I hope, is that clear?
Point of order, Chair.
Just hang on the point of order, please. So I want to make that very clear because there has to be some parameters. For example, are we going to summons him or her? We don't even know. You know, what conditions are going to be imposed on that? So I need some definition on that as well, okay? You still have the floor on the point of order. Madame Fortier, go ahead.
I challenge this right now conversation about a motion that is not duly presented, and also that UE had in camera a direction very clear on another motion. So I don't understand why we're having a debate on a current motion that is not, and I challenge this motion.
Appreciate your challenge on that. Without getting into the specifics of the other motion that was presented, there was no clear definition on a date in that motion. There was no timeline on that motion, and I clarified.
Point of order again, challenge that again. There was a timeline shared during that motion.
I'll have to, let me go back to the motion. Just give me a second, please. Okay, thank you, Madam Fortier. I am ruling the motion admissible. The difficulty that I have, as you can appreciate, is the language of the previous motion did not specify a timeline. And in the absence of any timeline in that motion, then this motion, which gives a specific date, is, in my opinion, admissible. Now, I've asked Mr. Barrett to clarify certain aspects of this motion, but again, we get into the difficulty when motions are presented or amendments are presented on the fly, what the interpretation of those amendments are. And of course, they are subjective. But again, based on what was dealt with, and not saying specifically what was in that motion, there was no specific timeline associated with it. So this is why I'm ruling this admissible. So go ahead, Madame Fortier. You're still on your point of order. Mr. Barrett, you still have the floor. Go ahead, Madame Fortier.
And Mr. Chair, respectfully, I am challenging your ruling on this motion that it is in order.
So,
Point of order.
So it's a
Chair,
non-debatable, but go ahead, Mr. Kirk. I'm going to allow you on your point of order.
Thank you,
the
Chair,
chair's
because
been challenged on it. Sorry,
this
go ahead.
appears to be a shameless effort by the Liberals to shut down a
Okay, that's
whistleblower
debate,
from
Mr.
coming to
That's debate,
to
Mr.
this
Kirk.
committee.
I
Mr. Chair,
appreciate
this is
that.
an
Please.
unacceptable.
That's debate. I appreciate that. I have been challenged by Ms. Fortier on my ruling to allow Mr. Barrett's motion. That's a non-debatable thing, and we have to call the vote. So I'm going to ask the clerk to call the vote. Go ahead, Madam Clerk, please.
So the vote is on the challenge by Ms. Fortier on the ruling of the chair on the admissibility of the motion.
Correct?
So the question is, shall the decision of the chair be sustained? Mr. Baines,
No.
Mr. Long,
No.
Mr. Kellaway,
No.
Madame Fortier,
No.
Mr. Pawlowski,
No.
Mr. Barrett,
Yes.
Monsieur Gould, Mr. Kirk,
Yes.
Monsieur Villemur,
Oui.
Mr. Green,
No.
Yeas 4, nays 6.
Okay, so the yeas have it.
No,
Oh, sorry, the nays have
Nays
it.
have it.
Yep, sorry about that. So hang on.
debate can take place.
Okay, so my decision is sustained. Not sustained, sorry, Madam Clerk, it's not sustained. No, I get that, yeah,
Sorry about that.
yeah. So the decision is opposed. Mr. Couric, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, Chair, it is unbelievable that once again the Liberals have shamelessly attempted to silence, in this case, a whistleblower, Chair, that
Sorry, he was on a point of order. Are you on a point of order? No, because you're on debate right now. Actually, Mr. Barrett still has the floor. Sorry about that, Mr. Couric. I thought you were on a point of order. Mr. Barrett, go ahead, and then Ms. Fortier.
Chair, when we have an issue where tens of millions of taxpayer dollars have been identified out of a handful of projects from $1 billion fund as being misappropriated, when we've had witness testimony at this very committee of the chair, the Prime Minister's handpicked chair of this slush fund, to admit to the committee that she gave herself hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is embezzlement. This is corruption. The reason there's an Auditor General investigation, so I wrote the Auditor General a letter. Following my letter, the Auditor General announces that reviewing the facts from the RCGT investigation or fact-finding exercise, that there's going to be an Auditor General's investigation. After we had the chair of the board come to this committee, I wrote to the Ethics Commissioner. The Ethics Commissioner has said that there is going to be an investigation. The violations of ethics laws are absolutely unacceptable. We have gross mismanagement, conflicts of interest, embezzlement of taxpayer dollars. A motion to have a whistleblower come before a parliamentary committee. Whistleblowers are the only reason that Canadians know that this happened. And to have members silence a whistleblower by refusing to allow them to come before the committee speaks to a government that is more interested in covering up their own corruption than being accountable to the Canadians who sent them here. I'm not done, Chair.
No, Mr. Barrett, the problem is that the admissibility of the motion was deemed not to be sustained. So the motion is actually not on the floor anymore, and the challenge we have right now is that it's not open or subject to debate.
Sure.
That's the problem we have.
Yeah,
So there is no debate that's to occur, so I can't allow you to speak any further, Mr.
Well,
Barrett.
Chair, you recognized me, and I don't believe that the standing orders indicate that there's a limit on time that I have before I have to put a motion before the committee, and so I'd like to continue.
Hold on, Mr. Barrett, please.
Only debate. You
Yeah.
can only debate a motion.
And Mr. Barrett, the unfortunate reality for you, sir, is that there is no motion on the floor that we are debating at this point. So there's nothing to say.
There's a limit on the preamble that I can give before I move a motion.
Are you planning on moving a motion?
Yes, sir.
Have you got it in both official languages?
That's not required for a matter at hand when we're in committee business.
Okay. So I would prefer that you move, if you can move your motion, and then we can debate it, and you'll continue to have the floor once your motion is moved, and then we can carry on.
Well, I appreciate your preference. I don't believe that that's necessary. So I'd like to continue. Speaking to the matter.
If that is the case, procedure. If that is, we should suspend.
So in advance of that, Mr. Barrett, we are gonna have to suspend again because the clerk has advised me that she's not seen this procedurally. And so I'm going to require that the clerk provide me with guidance on this. So we're gonna suspend for a couple of minutes. Go ahead on your point of order.
There is no precedent that I'm aware of I am very eager to hear it, where members at this committee have been limited in their preamble before moving a motion. That has not been your practice. It has not been the practice at previous chairs at this committee. It hasn't happened when I've sat on other standing committees in the House. This isn't the first time. And so while I appreciate that there may be an eager desire for this not to, for me to not move the motion.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to suspend for a couple of minutes because I do need guidance on this, okay? So I'm going to suspend. One, when we concluded, Mr. Barrett had the floor. Mr. Barrett, I'm aware of your intent to move a motion, so I'm going to give you some latitude on, you had the floor, you're going to continue to have the floor, but at some point I expect that your motion will be moved. Go ahead, sir.
Chair, on November the 16th, I received correspondence from the Conflict of Interest and Ethics
Point of order.
Commissioner.
Go ahead on the point of
I'm really
order.
trying to understand where we are right now, Chair.
So-
Because I challenged the motion that was brought forward.
Right.
I have a
So-
couple of lines in the Green Book, and I'd just like for you maybe to ask the clerk to refer how
just
this
did
is
that.
working,
Yeah.
because I don't understand, and I would like you to either repeat or make me understand. I'm very confused with the challenge I did, and now that we're kind of
Yeah, so
doing this. Thank you.
the challenge was upheld, if you recall, Madame Fortier. Mr. Barrett has indicated to the committee that he intends on moving another motion, which is fine. He can have a preamble to that motion, not unlike the preamble that you had when you moved the motion to adjourn the meeting when the RCMP was here. I'm giving Mr. Barrett, as chair, some latitude on the preamble, and I expect that he's going to move that motion. I asked the clerk to clarify this, and she did. And I'm quite comfortable with the position that we're in right now based on the information that I received from the clerk.
On that same point of order, Chair.
Go ahead on the same point of order. You have the floor, Mr. Barrett, on the same point of order.
So Standing Order 116 clearly speaks to this issue.
Yep.
And it says, in a standing, special, or legislative committee, the standing order shall apply so far as may be applicable, except the standing orders as to the election of a speaker, seconding of motions, limiting the number of times the speaking and limiting the number of times of speaking and the length of speeches. It says, end of debate, 2A. Unless a time limit has been adopted by the committee or by the House, the chair of a standing, special, or legislative committee may not bring a debate to an end while there are members present who still wish to participate. A decision of the chair in this regard may not be subject to an appeal of the committee. A violation of paragraph A of this section may be brought to the attention of the Speaker by any member, and the Speaker shall have the power to rule on the matter if, in the opinion of the Speaker, such violation has occurred. The Speaker may order that all subsequent proceedings in relation to the said violation be nullified. It not only does it not speak to a limit of time for the member to speak, it specifically says that once I move the motion, that until I'm done, and then until everyone who has indicated that they subsequently want to speak are done, then the matter is the one that the committee is seized with.
So thank you for that, Mr. Barrett. As I indicated in speaking with the clerk, I am prepared to give some latitude in the event that you are going to move a motion. You've indicated to the committee that you are going to move a motion, and so I'm going to give Mr. Barrett the latitude to speak in advance of moving that motion. And that time may or may not be limited, Mr. Barrett, so I want you to consider your time wisely. Go ahead, please.
Point of order again, sir.
Go ahead, Madam Fortier, on your point
Thank
of
you.
order.
And with your explanation, may I ask, maybe to better understand, because I read at page 607, Chapter 13, in Procedure and Practice, 3rd edition. If a member moves a motion during his or her speech, for example, an amendment or a motion to adjourn debate, the act of moving the motion will normally terminate the member's speech. Therefore, I'm trying to understand, how do we continue discussing this if I have read this part at page 607 and
Okay.
trying to understand?
Okay, just give me a second. So I think I clarified it at the onset when we came out of the suspension. The previous motion that was presented was deemed inadmissible by a majority of the committee, which is fine. That's the committee's prerogative to do. So the debate on that particular motion ends. The issue now before us, and this is where the chair does have some latitude, is Mr. Barrett is intent on moving another motion. So in advance of moving that motion, he has the right to speak on that motion. As the chair, I'm giving him some latitude, which is my right to do. And so I'm going to ask Mr. Barrett to continue. So go ahead, Mr. Barrett, please.
On November 16th of 2023, I received a letter from the interim Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner. And the commissioner was responding to a letter that I had written. Now, in the letter, I laid out how Ms. Verschaeren, who was then the chair and chief executive, she is the chair and chief executive officer of North Star, or NR Star, and a beneficial owner of the company, moved a motion at a meeting of the Board of Directors for Sustainable Development Technology Canada to provide COVID-related emergency relief payments to a number of companies, including her company. And further to the motion being adopted by the board, the company received $106,000 in 2020 and $111,000 in 2021. Her participation in making these decisions that provided her an opportunity to further her own interests is contrary to Section 6, Sub 1 of the Conflict of Interest Act. She used her position as chair of the board to influence her fellow directors in reaching a decision with respect to the motion that she moved herself, which furthered her private interests, contrary to Section 9 of the Act. And she failed to recuse herself from a matter in respect of which she had an opportunity to further her private interests, contrary to Section 21 of the Act. So this is what the Ethics Commissioner was looking at. He says, and I quote, "I have considered your request and of the view that it satisfies the requirements set out in subsection 44 sub 2 of the Act. I am therefore commencing an investigation under subsection 44 sub 3 of the Act into the matter you raise, and I've informed Ms. Verschaeren accordingly." This is what's come out of having a whistleblower bring forward the information that this committee has, that Canadians have. The Auditor General launching an investigation comes from the information that Canadians have. Now, did we get fast action and executives, the CEO and the board chair and the board fired for their role in these things that are known to the government? No. Because the whistleblower didn't even rise to the minister's attention for apparently for several months. We heard from the CFO for the industry minister that in recordings of him that were played in the media, that the minister was to be briefed within the first few months after this, before the final RCGT report was issued. But the minister says that's not what happened. So this didn't even land on the minister's desk until in the end of September. What we know is not because of due diligence from the government. What we know is from a whistleblower kicking at the darkness until it bleeds daylight. That's why we know what we know. And the 300-page slide deck that the minister hasn't read gave rise to the concerns that now have the Auditor General investigating. Wow. So it was a struggle to get this off the ground at the committee, but we can't have a situation where there's a whistleblower who is speaking to media, who is speaking to parliamentarians, and the committee is not going to entertain a motion like we just had to have them come before committee. The invitation should be furnished. That's the minimum standard that this committee should be willing to abide for us to pass a motion to have a whistleblower come before the committee. And I won't speak to the accommodations that I had described in it because the motion was defeated, or your decision to admit to find the motion admissible was defeated. So that's why I'm going to move another motion. But to find ourselves in a situation where we have a standing committee who has interested whistleblowers who are begging for the opportunity to have accountability in an organization that the committee would learn is very important to them. The sustainable development the sustainable tech sector is the life's work of these people who work at SDTC. Yeah. They want the confidence of Canadians restored in it. Their expressions to me have been that if this doesn't get sorted out, that it will undermine investment in their life's work, in the sustainable technologies sector. And I think that that's fair, that's fair that they're concerned about that, because we've seen rampant corruption at this organization. So the Auditor General came before a different committee, Public Accounts, and the representative from the Auditor General's office said that this is a new phenomenon at SDTC. The Auditor General had previously audited this organization through to 2017. So we're not talking about ancient history. We're talking about the recent development of conflicts of interest, lack of fund stream compliance, and recipients who are not compliant, a flawed and corrupted project approval process, wow, with ineligible payments being made, and of course, rampant issues with their human resources practices. But with respect to the importance of the motion that I have, this is the Standing Committee on Access to Information, Privacy and Ethics. In the RCGT report, one of their key observations is that, quote, a backdated declaration of conflict of interest between the CEO and the expert reviewer was made under the direction of the corporation's external legal counsel. They hired outside counsel, and outside counsel's recommendation to the CEO was, because you didn't follow our conflict of interest practices, backdate them, and then you'll be compliant. That's what we're dealing with here. There's no other organization where that would be acceptable, and it can't be accepted at an organization that is supposed to be stewarding $1 billion with a B Canadian dollars.
Point of order, Chair.
Again.
Go ahead on your point of order.
So, Mr. Chair, I find the members' comments to be really all over the place right now, debating,
This isn't a point of order.
presenting, and I would like to know when the motion will be moved.
It's not a point of order.
That is debate, Madam Fortier, and I appreciate your comments. I'm going to ask Mr. Barrett to, come to the point where the motion is presented, but I am going to give you a little bit of latitude. Go ahead, please.
I appreciate that this is uncomfortable for government members to hear what's happening and that their government failed to take action. I understand that it's extremely uncomfortable when there's going to be a whistleblower who wants to come to the table and talk about how PCO was given this information nearly a year ago and didn't take strong action, didn't protect employees at the organization, didn't appeal for protection for the whistleblowers. I understand that that's uncomfortable. But getting to the bottom of this is more important than the comfort of members, and the lack of understanding that was demonstrated by the minister when he came before the committee, who hadn't read the 300-page deck, who claims he wasn't aware of this until the end of September, even though we have his ADM on tape saying that he was made aware of it in the spring, that he was going to be briefed on it in the spring. And then to come before the committee and say, well, we took it so seriously that we ordered a forensic audit. No, they didn't. In the forward of the report, the fact-finding exercise that they did order, it's called just that. It's not a forensic audit. And that's why the Auditor General is going to look into it.
Point of order, Chair, here.
And again.
Go ahead, Ms. Damoff.
I know I've arrived rather late to this monologue here, but there's nothing uncomfortable at what happened. I thought Mr. Barrett was moving a motion. It sounds like he's preparing a Facebook clip here rather than actually preparing to move a motion.
Yeah, I've already ruled on this, Ms. Damoff. He's already indicated that he is going to be moving a motion. There is some latitude that can be given from the chair to him. I'm giving him that latitude. We've already discussed this.
So is what he's saying, though, Chair, does it have to do with his motion? We don't even know what the motion is. I don't know. How can you do the preamble like this?
This is why I've asked Mr. Barrett to expedite the process of him introducing his motion, because I am giving a fair bit of latitude at this point. Go ahead, Mr. Barrett.
I'd say a fair bit of latitude is being given with the points of order that are being offered as well. So it's good to see that latitude is being evenly applied around the committee chair. The report that we got from RCGT is, of course, filled with redactions. And so when we're trying to get information, a standing committee of the House is looking for information on this massive scandal that may be up to $150 million in misappropriated funds. And I'm looking at page after page of redactions. And we don't know what we don't know. And this is why having the whistleblower come before committee, you would expect that that's what behooves all members. They would want the full information. Ms. Damoff said that there was nothing uncomfortable about it. Well, then I would expect that there would be a sense of urgency for this person who has put themselves at great professional risk to speak to media, to speak to parliamentarians. And we have an opportunity to have them potentially speak to us if committee were to take a favorable decision on a motion to call the whistleblower, invite them to appear in the future. The one that I just had moved was spiked, and that's incredibly concerning. Incredibly concerning. The context of the situation is that in a period from 2019 till 2022, we have just one example of the many findings by RCGT, $17.5 million of ineligible fundings. That's just one example from this report. And this is the stuff that's not blacked out. So for the committee to not undertake a fulsome review of this in a timely way, because this is a time-sensitive issue, because they still have money. The same board is still in place. The chair resigned after outing herself accidentally at committee, thinking that she hadn't broken any rules, giving herself a couple $100,000. That's the casual incompetence at work at this organization. And the CEO quit because the Auditor General launched an investigation. We can't continue to have taxpayer dollars managed by an organization that is in such a state of disarray that each week people are resigning, and those same people should have been fired by the government weeks before. You know, the minister had said that there wasn't cause for these people to be fired. I think it's evidenced in the redacted version of the report that the government commissioned, but certainly the evidence that the whistleblower provided to them, the assistant deputy minister said himself, that they believed them. 300 pages worth of this. And that information, again, doesn't come from an internal audit. That comes from people who are taking those risks to themselves. The non-compliance that was evidenced at the RCGT, this is with them having the opportunity to control the information that was being reviewed. Now, I have great confidence now that the Auditor General is investigating, but that's not a function of the government having done their job. That's a function of these folks having been caught. And so they enjoy the protection for now of being able to redact these documents. And if I were to give the full presentation of my motion, Chair, you'd hear me read the entire document and include every single time there were redactions. That would be theater. That would be something worthy of TV. They're very worried about people seeing this for what it is. You know, I'm looking at one single page and 3/4 of it is blacked out. And we don't know which companies that are associated with which directors received money. And we don't know, and I'm as I look through it, I can't help but scoff in disbelief, because, you know, tables where it's supposed to list project numbers and fixed amounts and variable payment conditions and total funding approved, the tables are empty. They're redacted. Wow. So this is why it's so incredibly important that that we're going to have the opportunity to debate a motion that that speaks to the issue that's developed here at this committee, and I think that when we have a question of conflicts of interest, which is the raison d'etre of this committee, I mean, we could also talk about access to information. The Access to Information Committee can't get access to the information that speaks to conflicts of interest. The irony. It's, yeah, it is ironic. The examples are bountiful in this document, and why we wouldn't take this matter and be seized with it as a committee, I think we know. I think we know why. We've heard that from the interruptions to my presentation, and we've heard that from the attempt to ensure that we don't have a motion that calls for the whistleblower to have the opportunity to come before the committee. But it's also interesting because we had members of all parties who were contacted with this information, and when the minister responsible won't even take a look at it, that's a problem. That's scandalous in and of itself. Now, in the report, talking about conflict of interest policy not being followed, it talks about there are the results of testing 21 samples, inclusive of the planned 19 redacted, which were found to be of interest during testing for compliance against conflict of interest policies. Redacted, did not consistently declare conflicts as part of the corporation's conflict of interest process. It appears that redacted, not formally declare conflicts for redacted during the time of the project assessment, and redacted, and section 1, fully redacted. Section 3, 3/4 redacted. So it's really tough for us to be able to do our job if we don't have someone who was in the room, because we're not going to get the information from our CGT. And we're not going to get the information from officials. We have one official from the government in Mr. McConaughey who said, first of all, he didn't know that he was being taped, which is probably when you get the most honesty out of them, I suppose. But he wasn't speaking for the government. Well, he's the assistant deputy minister. He's the CFO at ISED. Of course he does. And he's the one who said he didn't have confidence in the board. He's the one who said that. He's the one who said that he believed the whistleblowers. But that's not borne out in the actions of the government. So then it becomes incumbent on us to actually address the issue. And no, I'm fine. Thanks. That's when it becomes incumbent on us to address the issue.
I'm going to remind you, Mr. Barrett, at some point you're going to have to move your motion.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. The Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner, the Auditor General, independent reports, 300-page whistleblower dossiers. I don't know what's enough for government members to think that maybe we should hear from the whistleblower on this issue. What we're hearing that we did. Well, for those of you following along at home, no, we didn't hear from the whistleblower, and the opportunity to do that before you got here today was defeated. The committee voted to silence a whistleblower, and I can't abide that. I am incredibly concerned.
Just a reminder again, Mr. Barrett, just to be mindful of the discussions that were held in camera as well. Okay, just talking about that, just to make sure you're clear.
So I'm crystal clear, Chair. I'm speaking about the events exclusively of today. The events of today were that I moved a motion that the committee invite the whistleblower and the individual who contacted the committee to identify wrongdoings.
Point of order.
That wasn't defeated. It was ruled out of order.
Yes.
So let's be clear.
Point of order.
And to be clear, Ms. Damoff is right. It was.
These aren't points of order.
No, I know.
These aren't points of order. This is now open debate. This is anarchy.
Okay, so I'm just going to Ms. Damoff, I think we all know what happened. Mr. Barrett also knows what happened. I'm going to ask him to continue. Be mindful of moving that motion soon, please, sir.
What happened at this committee was that I moved a motion that the committee invite the whistleblower, the individual who contacted the committee to identify wrongdoings at Sustainable Development Technologies Canada, to provide their testimony, and that the committee make every accommodation necessary to facilitate the witness testimony in public before Friday, December 1st, 2023. And what happened was the cover-up coalition used procedural tricks to make sure that didn't happen. It's as good as a no vote. It's as good as a no vote. And so if they want to use tricks to silence whistleblowers, they can do that, but they have to live with their own consciences on that, because they have to live with their conscience, and they can heckle and be upset, but the official record will show that they had the opportunity to vote on that, and they chose.
Okay, I'm going to ask for order in the room. Sorry, Mr. Barrett. I'm going to ask for order in the room. Mr. Barrett still has the floor. I expect that you're going to get to your motion soon. Go ahead, please.
And just like they want to silence me from talking about them silencing a whistleblower, just like they want to silence me, we've got.
I'm going to call for order in the room, please. Mr. Barrett is still talking.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
These are the same members, Chair, who shut down a meeting when we had the commissioner of the RCMP here to expose corruption with their government. It's a bit of a pattern, you see. every time corruption in the Liberal government comes forward, we have Justin Trudeau's hand-picked board chair comes before committee and outs herself as having embezzled, hundreds of thousands of dollars from taxpayers. And of course they don't want the whistleblowers to come before the committee. Of course they don't. But they don't even want us to talk about how they don't want it to happen. And so the committee needs to have the opportunity to take a decision on whether we want to make sure that the official record reflects that. And my motion will speak to that. The opportunity for witness testimony from someone in this space who isn't doing it for political gain, who elected to pursue a career in the sustainable technologies sector, and is at great personal risk. We've asked the government for protection for the whistleblowers, and the government has said no. They're not going to provide that protection to them. So we have an obligation then when these individuals come before us to make sure that or bring their information, furnish us with that information, and present the opportunity for us to send them an invitation to have them come here and tell Canadians what so far, as far as I understand, only opposition MPs and the media have been willing to hear from them. The minister cautioned members against speaking to the whistleblower. He offered a caution, his best legal advice. Well, I can tell you, from a minister who didn't fire the entire board, the chair, the CEO, when this came to light, I'm not looking for their advice. We have Canadians who are struggling and who are looking to Ottawa and see this kind of rampant insider dealing and corruption, and parliamentary committees are where their representatives have an opportunity to examine this kind of thing. That's a good point. If not that, then what? And the urgency of this, I think, is very clear. I was saying previously, when I was interrupted, that this is $1 billion still in the hands of people who have demonstrated that they won't follow conflict of interest rules at their own organization. In some cases, they don't even exist. Their assurances to the group reviewing them was that they were going to bring somebody in. Well, I'll remind you that the outside counsel that they brought in had them backdating conflict of interest documents so that they'd be compliant with conflict of interest rules. Wow. Sounds like the chair of the board got outside legal counsel to tell her, you can give yourself a couple $100,000 and have the board vote on it. You can, in fact, move the motion. It's not a conflict of interest, they said. It's incredible that level of disdain for the taxpayer wouldn't rise to the highest priority for parliamentarians, that we wouldn't be engaged in that. The greatest urgency that the government found for it was a fact-finding exercise. And they'll tell you now that they're cooperating with the Auditor General. Well, surprise, they're legally required to. That's like them saying that when the RCMP is searching the file cabinets that, we're cooperating with the RCMP. Well, of course you are. You are required to by law. The contribution agreement, which underpins this fund, is identified as being not meeting the seed fund is not it's identified as not being compliant with that contribution agreement. One of many examples of the observations that RCGT found that show that the people who are administering this money for taxpayers, or misadministering, misappropriating, mismanaging, they have been having quite a time. They've been having quite a time at taxpayers' expense. And the protection that employees would expect working for an organization that is under the watchful eye of the minister, the so-called watchful eye of the minister, they don't even have a formal hiring or termination process. So when people get in the way, they fire them. So the minister was very concerned about whether or not he had cause to fire the chair or the CEO. Well, I can tell you, they pulled the fire alarm and ran for the exits when the investigation started. But they're still obligated to cooperate. And the demands for information from the CEO for correspondence, none of these demands are excused by virtue of having resigned. The imperative for a parliamentary committee to do this now is that we get this issue on the record with the whistleblower, with people who know, before the paper shredders start going. That's one of the risks that we have here. The more time and space that the people who have been abusing the taxpayer get between them and transparency, that's great. That's the perfect scenario for them. And I can't help but wonder when the board of directors minutes, they sampled, RCGT sampled 21 samples of meeting minutes, and they found deliberations or conclusions by the board prior to 2023 for conflicts of interest that there were none documented. So no one declared that they had a perceived or real conflict, and there's no way to assess whether or not that happened. So the Auditor General may be able to put together who had interests in what, and who was at the meetings, and who continued to participate. But because we operate in a system where we expect honorable people to act honorably, we expect the people charged with administering these massive sums of money are going to self-declare their conflicts. There's an entire period of time now where there's no record. The board just didn't keep a record. Whoops. Like, how convenient for them. How absolutely convenient for them. And when the conflict of interest recusals or the conflict of interest, the perception of a conflict isn't identified, it's going to create huge holes. We need people who have the corporate knowledge, the institutional memory, who aren't politically motivated to speak to that. And this committee is the venue. This committee is the venue where we ought to be giving people, these people the opportunity to expose this very serious problem. I can't help but wonder when we have a 300-page dossier presented to the Privy Council's office that lays out in great detail all of the issues with Sustainable Development Technologies Canada, be it with their fund stream compliance or their conflict of interest, lack of conflict of interest, guardrails, or their myriad of problems. How it is that that's not something that not only landed on the minister's desk, but how did that not land on the Prime Minister's desk? it didn't get sent in an envelope to to the to ISED's mailroom. This went to PCO. Like that, and it wasn't a brown envelope that just got received and reviewed and, well, we better do something about it. The whistleblowers sat down and clicked through a slide deck with officials. So any of the news that is going to come, that's going to come out, they're aware of the real damage that this does to their government. And so it became not a question of integrity, it became a political problem for them. Which speaks to why we don't have a plan at this committee with respect to the motion that was dealt with at the start of the meeting to have the whistleblower furnished with an invitation. That should give incredible concern to everyone. So I have a motion that I'd like to move, Chair. And while I appreciate the enthusiasm of my colleagues, I'll get to it in just a moment.
So, am I to understand then that you're going to move that motion
Very
soon?
sure.
Okay, thank you.
Very shortly.
En français.
I have full confidence in our interpretation that they'll be able to provide it in both official languages for members as I presented. It's quite short. But let's just be clear. It's $1 billion. It's taxpayer money. We have an ethics commissioner investigation. We have the Auditor General investigating. We have the only way to get government attention is through whistleblower reports to the media. We have leaked audio recordings of the ADM, the deputy minister, who is laying out the seriousness with which the bureaucracy took this issue. And then when it did land on the minister's desk, it suddenly became much less of a problem. They suddenly didn't believe the whistleblower. They suddenly did have confidence in the board and the executive. And when given the opportunity, members of the coalition took every step they could to block an invitation for the whistleblower to appear before December 1st. So I move that the committee report to the House that the NDP Liberal coalition has prevented a whistleblower from testifying on the $1 billion green slush fund scandal.
Okay, so Mr. Barrett, you moved your motion. You want to just repeat it one more time for us, please?
That the committee report to the House that the NDP Liberal coalition has prevented a whistleblower from testifying on the $1 billion green slush fund scandal.
Okay. So we will have some, I do have some questions that I need to clarify with the clerk. I am going to suspend for a minute, if you don't mind, just to, because I need clarification on this, okay? Thank you. I appreciate the patience of members. As you can imagine, there's been some procedural challenges today that needed to be addressed. Mr. Barrett has moved a motion. I am going to rule it admissible. And on the motion as moved, Mr. Couric first, and then Madame Fortier. No, but you. But that was when we were discussing it earlier. Okay. Okay. So I've made a
I'm going to
decision.
challenge that decision.
Okay, it's fine. You can challenge it if
Okay.
you want. We moved the motion. Mr. Couric indicated that he wanted to speak on the motion. You and I saw Amir's hand. So, Ms. Damoff, are you challenging?
I am,
Okay,
yes.
go ahead. Well, the order of speakers are being challenged, so, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not
No.
debatable, no.
So it's on the challenge by Ms. Damoff. Mr. Baines.
Yes.
No.
No, I mean, no, sorry.
May-
I think you didn't, I was gonna wait for you to
I
read
will,
it.
I will put,
Can you read it out?
I will put some
Yeah.
some context. So it is not on the motion, it is on the challenge of the speaking order of the chair. So Ms. Damoff challenged the speaking order, and the question is, shall the decision of the chair to give the floor to Mr. Couric be sustained?
No.
Ms. Damoff.
No.
Mr. Kellaway.
No.
Madame Fortier.
No.
Sorry, I'm looking at the substitute, Mr. Poloski.
No.
Mr. Barrett.
Yes.
Monsieur Gourde. Mr. Couric.
Yes.
Monsieur Villemur.
No.
Mr. Green.
No.
So yeas 3, nays 7.
Okay, so that has been overruled. I appreciate that. 1 second, please. So what happens now? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Fortier.
Point of order, Chair.
Go ahead on your point of order, Mr. Couric.
Thanks very much. And with respect to Ms. Fortier, she had indicated, which then led to the challenge of your ruling on the speaking order. However, she did say that she had that her name was on the list, which very well may have been the case. However, I would ask, Chair, that you enlighten the committee on the rules and procedures that when a motion is moved, that then begins a new debate, which then would precipitate a new speaking list. So, with respect to the speaking order, I'm concerned that not only is the heavy hand of the coalition working diligently to silence a whistleblower, but now you have a former minister, former president of the Treasury Board, that is clearly preventing
What's the
conservative
point of order,
members
Damien?
of
Come
this
on.
committee to be able to speak. And Mr. Chair, I will be seeking advice as to whether that's a violation of privilege.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the violation of privilege, Mr. Couric. General practice and rules and procedures is that the chair can give the floor to whoever he deems, has indicated that they want the floor. As is the case with the previous ruling, I gave it to you based on seeing your hand when the motion was put up. Ms. Fortier did have her hand up earlier. The situation we find ourselves in now is that the ruling of the chair has been challenged, and it has been challenged successfully. So the issue that I have right now is that I will have to go to another speaker, and I'm prepared to do that. So whether it's a point of privilege or not, I can't answer that at this point. If you give me a second, I can certainly find out. But discretion is generally given to the chair to control who speaks and when. So hang on a second.
Chair, can I speak to this point of order once you're done? Thank you.
So the clerk just clarified for me that it doesn't elevate to a level of privilege, Mr. Kirk. What it does do, and what the chair's responsibility is to try to be as fair as it can to members in terms of their speaking privileges. As I indicated, I did see your hand immediately after the motion was presented, and that's why I went to you first. The reality of the situation is that the committee challenged that decision. I have to live by the committee's decision, but I will put you on the list. But Ms. Damoff, you were on a point of order or not?
It was just on the same one. I understand when you gave the floor back to Mr. Barrett, you had said the speaking order wouldn't be impacted. So that's why we went a little crazy, and I just wanted to mention that. But I'll just leave it there. You've ruled, Chair. Thank you.
So, Mr. Kirk, I do have you. I have Ms. Fortier, Monsieur Villemure, and then back to you, sir. Okay? Ms. Fortier, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And
On the motion, correct? On the motion.
I'm speaking.
Yeah, on the motion.
I'm speaking also because we've been flip-flopping committee business for the last weeks that I've been here, and committee business and work plan this, work plan that, always reworked a work plan, and we were supposed to be discussing today social media. I can understand that it might be really, really hard to find witnesses, but if we have a long list, we should be able to have witnesses. And I'm really, really exasperated to see that we are still, at this time, at a committee business meeting when we had a plan, and we had a very good work plan. We did have a meeting in camera, and I can't speak to it, so I won't. And this is not even addressing what was shared by Mr. Barrett today. I can not even express how I would have preferred we were talking about social media. And this is really becoming a pattern of disrespect for this committee, as we had a work plan, and this work plan is not the one that we're following. Therefore, I move that the committee now adjourn.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Fournier. Fortier, did I say Fournier? Yes. No, sorry about that. We have a motion to adjourn the committee. It's non-debatable, so I'm going to call on the clerk to take the vote. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn the meeting. Mr. Baines.
Yes.
Ms. Damoff.
Yes.
Mr. Callaway.
Yes.
Madame Fortier.
Oui.
Mr. Poloski.
Yes.
Mr. Barrett.
Nope.
Monsieur Gourde. No. Mr. Kirk.
No.
Monsieur Villemure.
Oui.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Yeas 7, nays 3.
Okay, the motion passes. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.